Well, welcome to another confab. I feel like we just had one Sunday. We didn't. No. Nice to have you here. And I really apologize to begin with of messing up Sunday. I wish I had a good excuse for everybody, but I don't. What happened is we had a bad link, and one bad link followed by another bad link, followed by a bad operator. But anyway, we're here tonight. We've got a great confab. I almost said Sunday ConFab. ConFab stands for having a conversation, and it's a kind of a relaxed atmosphere where we talk and share. And we've got some great discussion leaders tonight. And before I get to that, let me tell you about the convention coming up in Ocala. That's December 28th. It starts on the Thursday, runs 29, I think 20, yeah. Is that right? 20, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And you can register June 1st. We hit that button where we start the accepting applications and registrations on June 1st. Hope all of you will jump in there. And by the way, the workshops are selling out. If you're interested, you better jump on the bandwagon. This year has proved to be a great year for workshops for us. And be sure that you get in there and make your reservation. It's a great place to learn. Same time, when you go to a workshop with Florida Watercolor Society, you get to meet a lot of people from the region. And it really just doubles the impact of fun of getting to network with other people in the region, people that you might not normally have a workshop with. So that's a big plus. All right, let's talk a little bit about tonight. We have, first off, she's a demonstration artist at the convention this year. Her name is Cindy Venner, and she is going to be on the topic of acrylic painting. And I'm anxious to really see what she has to say. So without too much chit chat for me, no applause on that, please. I'd like to hear from Cindy. So Cindy, tell us about yourself and what in the world are you doing here tonight?
That's a good question. I paint in acrylic, so I also do just kind of crazy abstracts. So I was actually honored that they asked me to do a demonstration. So thank you for that. But hoping you all might learn something from me, you know, as I do this demonstration in September. But I know there's a lot of wonderful artists in the FWS that do acrylic and do abstract. So my plan is that I will be providing information and talking about like the tools I use. My abstracts, a lot of them are intuitive, but they also, sometimes I start with like a photo reference and I'll use that to just kind of inspire me for my color palette or mark making or something that I do like that to kind of just get me going on a painting. So I'll talk about that in my demonstration that I do. And also I have a tendency to like to work on panels and canvas, which I know you can't enter in the FWS, but the panels you can. I do work on watercolor paper also. And I'll share with you briefly here in a minute some of the pieces I'm working on right now behind me that are on the Hannah Mule paper, which were, you know, so kindly that I won the award for last year that they gave me. And it's actually great paper. I'm having fun playing with those. So what we'll talk about then at the workshop, at the demonstration, is that I'll talk about the tools that I use, and I can talk a little bit about that now. I use not just brushes, I use a lot of, you know, squeegees and palette knife and mark making tools. I use a lot of water-based crayons. I like Marabou art crayons, and I use aquarelle, Caran d'Ache aquarelle crayons. I use the Stabilo woodies, and I use them dry, and sometimes I, you know, get them a little wet and loosey-goosey so that they kind of run. And I do a lot of mark making, and that's kind of where I start. So in my demonstration, I'll be doing a lot of mark making up front, which kind of leads me down that intuitive path of where to go with my paintings. And and sometimes they end up being kind of a landscape at the end, if that's kind of where I feel it needs to go. And sometimes they don't. I use also, I mean, I use a lot of information with back and forth with transparent versus opaque. I usually start a lot with opaque paints and then go to, I'm sorry, I start with transparent, go to opaque, and then I go back and forth a little bit as I add layers and layers of paint over top of that, just to kind of get some nice glazing on with it as well. So I'm going to back up here real quick a second and grab this paint and bring it
Just a
close.
second. Just a
Yeah.
second. I want to remind everybody, if they have any questions, to put it down in the Q&A section, not in the chat, the Q&A. And by the way, all of you who are tuned in tonight, we can't see your picture or really hear from you. So you don't have to worry about if you're picking if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, we can't see you. Or you're still in your pajamas from this morning. Wait, Cindy, I got to ask you, you say the word intuitive. What's that mean in this reference to intuitive, the word you used? How'd you use it in your?
Well, for me, what it means is that up front, I might not really have a plan, is what it means. I just kind of start with something and see where it takes me.
Okay.
So, I mean, as I said, sometimes I might use a photo reference, but a lot of times what I do is more intuitive, and that I will just start, I'll grab some mark making tools and I will just put them down and see where it goes. And I usually, though, just to kind of keep things not confusing, we'll start with like just 3 colors of paint, not necessarily red, blue, yellow, but sort of quasi primary. It might be like, pink and green or something like that. But I keep my palette limited and I just kind of go with the flow and see where it goes is what I think of intuitive.
Oh, okay. That's very helpful, because I was thinking what you meant by intuitive. Everybody has a little interpretation of it. Now, you're telling me you painted those paintings behind you?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You painted those paintings behind you?
Yes, actually the one at the very top is oil and cold wax, because that's another medium I work in.
What kind again?
Oil and cold wax medium.
Oh.
And I do kind of a similar abstract style with that as well, although I do more traditional oil paintings. But I started painting with that medium probably, I don't know, back in the 90s. And then I picked up acrylic maybe about 10 years ago, mostly because I'd go traveling places and it's just so much easier to travel with acrylic and paint and then bring it home because it's dry, because the oils don't dry too well. So they take a while.
Crayon acrylic or crayon watercolors do you use?
The crayons I use, one is the Stabilo. It's called a Woody. I can show you. Hang on, I'll grab a couple.
We love show and tell. That's great.
All right. All right, I'll bring them over here. Hang on. Okay. So the Stabilo Woodies come in a variety of colors. They look like this. It's a thick kind of a water-based wax crayon. And they're great for drawing, but then of course you add water to them and they will run, and they're beautiful when they run as well. And sometimes when I use them, if the acrylic is still wet, of course, it makes some interesting kind of deep marks in what I've already put on there. So you might not see the crayon so much, you just see the mark. So that's one. And then I also have, they're all kind of dirty and grungy because I use them a lot. This is the Caran d'Ache Aquarelle. It's a blue, little thinner crayon, and they come in a variety of colors too. And they're wonderful. And actually what's interesting is I can use these with oil and cold wax because there's wax in them, but then I use them with my acrylic as well because it works so well with water-based, because it's a water-based crayon. So I kind of can use these both ways, which is nice. And then I have, of course, the Marabou art crayons. They're slick and kind of, they slide on really slick and smooth. They're really nice. And of course, when you add water to those, they're kind of a crayon with water wax in them as well. So
yeah, you can use for lipstick too, can't you?
You probably could, yes. The gray might not be so pretty, but
the way you roll it like that.
Yeah. And
that's fantastic. Now, will you be showing any of these mediums with the demo? Are you saying you're going to show some of these?
yeah, I'm going to show how I would use all of these when I do my demonstration. My plan is to really try to do one of my abstracts, if it's not too big, from start to finish. I'm one of those people that I'm a fast painter. I kind of learned to paint fast back when I first started painting. I had a teacher that made us paint like paintings in 2 hours. So what I liked about that is it keeps you very loose. I'm not a very tight painter. I'm not a very realistic painter. So I just always paint fast. And I mean, that being said, I might crank out a painting in a couple hours and then leave it and go back, and then the day later go back and work it again. But I usually get fairly along in it, in about an hour or so. If it's flowing well, I guess you could say, if everything is going the way I think it should. So, and of course, as we all know, that doesn't always happen. So you just either leave it and put it away, paint over it, or whatever.
That's fantastic. Now, just real quick, are the crayons and those medium archivable? Are they stable sunlight?
I believe they are. I mean, you can varnish over top of it. A lot of times though, on the crayons, if you haven't wet them so it dries, you probably have to use the spray fixative first, is what I use to kind of set it. And then I will varnish over top of that, is what I will do, usually a matte varnish to protect it. Because if you don't do that, it can be kind of tacky. I mean, a lot of times if I'm painting on paper, like some of these pieces behind me, my plan is probably to not mat them and frame them, but I would probably adhere them to a board. And I believe that still qualifies for the FWS, because I know he has to be on a board. But I mean, if not, then, I wouldn't, I don't know, can anybody answer that for me? Can you do that with paper and put it on a board and with a gel medium and glue it on there? Or does that qualify? Does anybody know?
Got a yes over there with Nancy and Robin?
Okay.
That's a yes.
Okay, good. So then that would be one
We
thing I
have
would.
on the line tonight, so that's great. So tell us a little bit more about that painting you pointed out to us.
Oh yeah, let me grab it and look closer. So this is, I'm gonna hold it up a second so you can see it. Sort of. I know yet which direction it will go. I mean, I find that it's close to finished. I'll stand back a little. I kind of want to make it like this, but when I paint, I also turn it a lot when I'm painting my abstract. So I'll start in one direction and work on it, and then turn it a little bit and keep working on it. And this one, I'll bring it a little closer so you can kind of see some of the detail. A lot of mark making. It started very transparent with a lot of marks, and as I went more opaque with it, I put it just seemed to flow better like that. It's a little crazy. It needs some calming down, and that's my process, is to try to figure out how wild and crazy does it need to go before I go back in and create, resting areas for your eye and that kind of thing, and making sure my marks are
varnished. Is that piece varnished?
Not yet. No, because I haven't decided.
What varnish would you suggest to use or sealer?
I usually use, there's a couple of different things I could use. Hang on a second, I don't remember the name of it, but I can show you what it is. There's I should have pulled this up. Should have pulled them out before. There's a Liquitex varnish that I use that's like a matte varnish. Actually, Golden has a really good matte varnish. And sometimes I use this thing from Lowe's. It's Minwax polyacrylic, which is it's cheaper. And I actually learned that from a workshop I took with Joan Fullerton. She uses this, and it's much cheaper. And I don't know if it's archival, to be perfectly honest, but I use it because I like the finish of it. If I'm doing a painting on a board, I like it on a board. I would use Golden if I were painting on varnishing on paper, just to make sure because of the paper that it would be, it would be set and safe and, last for a while anyway. But yeah, I use this a lot when I'm painting on with canvas or on an ampersand board. So that's what I would use for varnish. Yeah.
Now, someone mentioned on the question or comments that that's not archivable.
Yeah,
so
probably not.
Okay. So
yeah, I would guess not. So as I said, I mean, it's probably when I'm doing it on the board. I mean, generally, I only use that if I don't have the other stuff, I will say that. Or if it's a painting that maybe is, that I might not care so much about, I shouldn't say that. But, if it's something that I just wanted to sort of varnish, sometimes I'll use it sort of as an intermediate varnish too. But I know it might not be archival, but I use it sometimes. I don't use it all the time. I use Golden a lot too, but that's good to know because I probably wasn't sure if it was or not. So
excellent. Well, I don't care either, but my great grandkids are going to be mad at me, but that's all right.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back to the workshop. I mean, I keep saying workshop. It seems like what all you're going to be able to see and do at this convention. So you're going to start your kickoff, and you're going to clarify. You're going to go through entire painting, paint it from beginning to end.
I'm going to attempt to do that. I'm going to try and make it big enough so people can see it, but not so huge I couldn't maybe do that.
Okay.
The size I would use probably, I'm thinking maybe, you know, if I do it on a board, which is preferable, just because I like the way that'll feel and work. I think I can work faster on a board than on paper. I'm thinking I would try to do it maybe like 24 by 24. And when I say finished, I think what I would say is my comfortability of thinking that it's sort of close to finished after one sitting, that kind of thing. And I know I only have 50 minutes. And so that being said, it might not be terribly close to finished, but it would be, I'm not saying that that's all I do when I do a painting, that it takes me 50 minutes and I crank it out and I'm done. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that I will try to get through it as much as I can with a couple good layers of my process, maybe for people to see that this is how I would proceed, if that's clear.
Now, can someone buy your painting when you're done?
They could, sure. Yeah, if I feel that it's enough, if it's enough finished that it's okay.
I'm trying to think what percentage, Robin, do you know what percentage we get on that?
60, 75%.
Yeah,
Cindy, didn't you sell at the traveling show?
I'm sorry?
Didn't your painting sold at the traveling show?
It did, yes. I was very excited about that. Yes. That was a smaller one. That was a 16 by 16. So, but that painting took me, I'd say, a good week to do because I was working on a series. That's one thing I also do is if I work on a series, I'm going back and forth between different paintings on the wall up here behind me, trying to create a cohesive kind of feel with what I'm working on. So they take longer if I do that, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, just make sure that you all check, make sure on people are commenting about the archivable, that mini wax is definitely not, and that's per a very reliable source. So,
Okay, I go with that then. Thank you. That's good to know. I'll stick with my golden.
yeah. So anyway, appreciate that. That was a really great discussion about what you're doing. I think we got a pretty good idea what to look forward to. And we're going to move on now to the next discussion leader. And please enter in if you have any questions, Cindy. Matter of fact, there's extra points for stumping the panelists, the next two especially. And you might have some questions because it sounds like. So anyway, we'll move over to, now we have, this is so fun. I can't believe I get to do this. Our next panelist will be, there's two of them, and there's lots of names you can call them, but just for now, we'll call them Robin and Nancy. Let me add them.
And we know where you live, so watch it, buddy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I also know what it's like to get payback, so I'm very careful. You guys look quite sharp tonight. Glad you cleaned up for it. And normally we don't see you like this. It's nice to see you this way. Tell us a little bit about your, I'm just going to let you take it away. You already know what you're going to talk about. It's a fascinating discussion. I've already heard from a number of people who were disappointed because this was the topic they wanted to discuss. So jump in there, and people put the Q&A. By the way, Q&A stands for Q and questions. The A stands for answers. So you ask the questions, we'll do the answer. All right, how about it?
It's not a quart and another.
We're going to start off our section. Robin made a PowerPoint and she has an announcement to make, and then we'll answer questions.
I do. I'm going to share my screen because we would like to congratulate Lynn Bechtel, who won our People's Choice Award in the Weathering the Storm. She got the most votes, and Jackie let her know today that she won. So we are letting her, we are announcing her. She's coming out of the closet, and we are featuring her in the newsletter. So if you miss it tonight, you'll be able to read it in the newsletter, which is going out tomorrow morning.
That's a
Beautiful.
beautiful piece, beautiful piece.
Isn't that amazing? Yep. And by the way, it was a very, very close race. Don't ever think that your vote doesn't count, because it did. So Lynn's going to win a $200 gift card from Cheap Joe's, and Jackie's taking care of that part of it. And then, okay, so now I'm going to, should I do the PowerPoint? Share the
Yes.
screen. Share. I'm getting the hang of this stuff. Let's see. Slideshow. Slideshow. Play from start. Okay. All right, Nancy, you're gonna, well, first we have this. We'll let that sink in. Everybody got it?
Okay, you may have to read it to a few people.
Okay.
iPhones.
All right. We get a lot of questions. We see a lot of work. We put out a lot of fires, and we start some too. So before you go berserk, what about your entry? Ask while we are here. Is lurking around the corner. Deadline day is near. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Okay, we will be doing an much extended presentation of this at the FWS convention. Call it a demo if you like, but we're calling it a presentation. So this is a sneak preview. And if you haven't entered, thanks to those of you who have entered, we have quite a few entries, but we could use a lot more. And if you haven't entered and you have questions, now is the time. Okay, Nancy, you're going to take it away.
Okay. Okay, if you look at this, I mean, y'all would think that I'm crazy putting this slide in here, but I have literally gotten pictures with a thumb in them, or a brush going across the corner or whatever. When you take your picture, make sure that it's evenly lit, that it's flat, and then crop out all the white space.
We don't want to see any frames, any up against the hubcap of the car. We don't want to see any of that stuff.
No blades of grass, no.
Cat hair, yeah, etc.
Do you like those sharp edges then? No matte.
No
Correct.
matte. Now this one, I put a watermark over this one to show you, because every year I get at least one that I have to contact and go, you need to find a copy of your photo that doesn't have a watermark on it. Your signature can be on there. I mean, we suggest that if you have the opportunity to photograph it before you sign it, that might be preferable. But it's okay if you've signed it, but don't put a watermark over the top of it. Okay, this is an example of someone who thought their picture looked fine, and then when I open it, it looks like this. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that is. But when you open it in Cafe, check it in Cafe and make sure it's clear to you in that website. And if it is, I will see the same thing you're seeing.
So it's out of focus?
Yes.
Oh, that's you, Ron.
Okay, this is an example of, sometimes people have already framed their piece or matted their piece, and then they try to take a picture to submit for this. You can see it puts a shadow all the way around on two sides of the painting. You can see the mat. Even if you were to crop it off, you're still going to see the shadow, or you're going to lose an inch or more of your painting. So, and this one, I mean, the color's not too great. It's probably a much brighter yellow than that. So color check your painting with your picture.
What I'm going to talk about is the quality of the images that we get, because you have to remember that these images, if they get into the show, they're going into the catalog. Oops, passed it by. There we go. Okay, so this is the painting, Nancy's painting. I put it in Photoshop. And look very close, you can see these guidelines. That's where the painting's getting cropped. So not only are you losing a bunch of the painting, it's a different shape. It's a different aspect ratio than this. Now I'm having a hard time seeing this because we're in the way. There, okay, I got rid of us. But this, she was right. It is, all I did was hit auto tone in Photoshop. And it brightened everything up, and I can see the pretty blue. Now, whether or not that looks like the original, I don't know, because I didn't see the original. I only saw her image. Okay, but you can still see the shadows from the mat. Okay, so this is your job to make sure that we get a good image. And these coming up are some images that were, if it'll, no, you go. Okay. Our wonderful Marilyn Johansson submitted this one in about 2014 to the online show. Here, this is white. Now, watercolor paper isn't white. It's a little bit off-white. It's more like this, the screen, if you can see where I'm cursoring, not cursing this time. I told Jackie I wouldn't do that tonight. So when I see these come in, when I see the images, I know there's something wrong with them. Then I see the original come in to the show, and I know that I have to adjust that because I'm doing the catalog now. And there's the adjustment. This is what came in. This is the adjustment. And this actually did get into the show just like that. Now, it was the online show, so there was no catalog. This came in just like this. Now, this is even worse. Look how dark gray that is. There's the adjustment, and that's one click in Photoshop, but I don't have Photoshop. Well, we'll talk about other things that you can use for at the convention. We'll talk about that. Okay, so there's the adjustment. This one wasn't too bad, but look at the difference.
And
Okay,
I mean,
now, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I have a problem with the person that does my giclée printing. She is so good that she sometimes makes my prints look better than the original. And
Oh.
I will go to pick them up and I'll say, no, you're gonna have to redo that, because although it looks better, that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for like a perfect copy of the painting. So.
Okay, and having done giclée printing for 9 years at Blue Water Editions in Stewart, if any of you were my clients, I can tell you that there is no such thing as perfect, because now we can get pretty close. We're printing with 4 colors. You're painting with millions of colors. So it's 4 basic colors are, and sometimes there are some of the printers have green and some of the printers have different colors of blue, which really helps.
Well,
So we
I
can
mean,
get,
sometimes we'll pump up the contrast or the saturation, and I just want it as close as it can get.
so this is what happens. Now, when we say we need your image to be square, we don't necessarily mean square, even though this is a square painting. But if I get in front of it, all of a sudden it's not a square painting anymore. So you have to shoot these paintings as square on. And a lot of times these small ones, I'll put them on the floor and stand over them. And that way I can, and I shot this with my phone too. That way I can square it up, and shoot 6 or 7 until I'm sure that it's pretty square, and then and actually, if you look at this, this is wider than this. So it wasn't exactly, this is square to the edges in the original. So it wasn't exactly square. So you got this little garbage up here. Would I send that to a show? No, I would make sure that it was done correctly, but I certainly wouldn't, and I can't make a square out of this one. Okay, so oops, ruh-roh. No, you didn't. Okay, so this is a 20 by 16, and this is standing in front of it at an oddball angle. And we already showed you what happens if you try to crop this square. You're going to lose all of that, some of that, and all of that across the bottom. And it's not going to look, the thing is, you have to go, a lot of the members call it running the gauntlet. You have to go through past compliance when you get your image to the show. And we have these slides that you all submitted. And if it doesn't look like the slide, if you did something to it after, which has happened before, you get booted. So we don't want that to happen. So we need you guys to give yourselves the absolute best chance you possibly can of getting into the show. So
by the time take-in day arrives, Robin and I have both looked at these paintings dozens of times. So we will probably notice if it's changed from what was it.
How much can we expect of you to fix them when we send them in?
no, that's not our job.
Well,
Oh,
we definitely don't fix them before the judge sees them
No.
at all. You can't.
Well, we don't see them. We don't see the originals. You can't
Right.
adjust something if you don't know what the original looks like.
Yeah. Now, Robin might be nice and touch them up a little after take-in if she remembers to do so.
I absolutely will, because the catalog,
So if I send something in, it's whatever I send in is what the judges sees. You don't, yeah. So if I'm one of these people that think, well, that's good enough, they'll touch it up if they need it. You don't do that.
no, we don't.
He judges them on the cafe site.
Okay.
Like, we don't download them and send them. He does it on the site.
Good to know.
So we're not able to do anything.
If there's something horribly wrong like that Matt one, we'll send it back to you and make you do it over again. And we have a way that you can resubmit, as long as it's the same image, that you can resubmit a better image. We'll mark you incomplete, you fix your image, you put it back in, and then we'll check it again. And if we think that it'll, pass muster, to be presentable to the judge, then we'll go ahead and let you, then we'll go ahead and send it. So.
But I will say, if you send it blurry and we message you and say, we've marked it incomplete, please upload a clearer photo, and you upload it again blurry, then we're just going to let it go. I mean,
it's going in the catalog that way. Yep.
Help me understand something. Why is it that you require a certain size? I mean, why can't we just, whatever size we paint, we paint? You require a certain size for submitting.
well, the maximum size is designated by the venue where the show is going to be, because they will have to, fit all the paintings in there. So they give that the maximum size to us. That's why that changes year to year. The smallest size we accept is 8 by 10. And occasionally people are like, I like to paint small. I like to paint 5 by 7. Why can't you accept that? But if you're looking at a show of, 80 paintings, a small one, a 5 by 7 is so small, it just gets lost on the wall. Also, we don't have a whole lot of security. It's possible that size painting, somebody could just slip off the wall and stick in their bag and walk out with. So, I think it's for, your safety. And if you want to make an impact, you just need to paint a little bigger for this show. I'm sure there are plenty of other venues where you can put your small work.
Oh. Now, if my painting was just like a month over 2 years, is that still acceptable?
Well, it has to be after January 1st of 2021 this year. Now, if you did part of a painting in 2020, you didn't finish it, and then you went back and finished it in 2022, that's okay.
Okay. So the judge doesn't judge from the paintings themselves?
We weren't
Why
able to do
not?
that. We weren't able to do that last year. It has a lot to do with when the take-in date is and when convention happens. And because they're usually really close together, it would mean flying someone in from out of state twice. And our bylaws say that the juror has to come from out of the area, out of the state of Florida. So the cost of airfare just made it out of our price range currently to do that. Do you have anything else to say, Gordon, about that?
That makes sense. And when I shoot, is there some sort of setting guideline I should use? Or if I do an iPhone or a camera, is there a template or a settings I should use?
Well, just make sure that the resolution is high. I don't remember my iPhone. I think I just use it however it's originally set up. But you'll read it in the newsletter when it arrives tomorrow. My newest pet peeve is that my iPhone attempts to make my photos better. And sort of the same thing as when I go to the printer. Sometimes it washes out the lighter colors and gives me more contrast, or it changes it just a little bit. And so now I've pretty much decided I've got to get my old big camera out and shoot my photos again, because I'm not getting a good representation of what should be going on. I mean, I could take that and adjust it back, but I feel like it's safer just to use a separate camera. The iPhone takes a good enough quality. It's just, I think the newer algorithm in there is changing things. So just be aware of it and make sure what you send in actually looks like you're painting.
So if you have the, go ahead.
Right, let me jump in. Your camera is always going to exaggerate perspective, always. Your phone is going to exaggerate it worse. So you're going to get a better photograph if you use a high resolution digital camera. So
should I have it set on high definition, or is just the normal resolution okay?
The normal resolution.
a large file. We can
Yeah.
make a file smaller, but we can't make it large. Well, you can make it larger, but it's going to look like the goat.
If you
Okay.
use your iPhone, try to find the whole viewfinder with your painting and get it straight. Don't take it like in the middle and then crop it, because
Okay.
then it's
Change
not
the
going to.
resolution. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Well, you're wasting pixels on negative space.
Right.
That's all going to get cropped off. And it's also better to stand away from it, get it a square, not square, but square in your viewfinder as possible, and zoom in instead of getting close. As soon as you get close to it, the edges are going to start bowing out. So it's better to square it up by lining it up against two edges of whatever you're using to shoot, and then zoom into it to fill the frame. And don't fill it all the way. Leave a little bit to crop off because you don't want to lose any edges.
Are you going to show us an example of how to do that at the convention?
Oh, if you're a good boy, yes.
I have an idea how to display that, so that'll be cool.
Okay, cool.
The question comes up on the mediums or media that we could use. So all watercolor, like watercolor pencil and all that, is acceptable?
Yes.
Everything that Cindy used, yes.
As long as it's watercolor, water-based?
Yep.
Water
anything water-based.
soluble. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's in the prospectus, right?
correct.
Oh, yes. There's a whole page.
Yeah. Could you, just one more time, got one or two people wanting to know. So what is the deadline for how old a picture is? When you say past 2 years, what does that mean? 2 years from the date I submitted, or what? The date it's going to be displayed?
I'm not sure.
It's actually,
It has to have been, its creation date has to be after January 1st, 2021. For this
Okay,
year.
so
Okay, and that was more than 2 years ago.
Okay, well, that's true. So the date is what? You said what was it?
January 1st, 2021. Your creation date has to be 2021 or later.
Okay,
And that gives you, right now, it gives you
more than 2 years.
2.5 years.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, very good.
And if you haven't done it yet, you better paint real fast.
Yeah, so if
I
it's
just-
a painting,
One
so
today.
so if it's a painting you've never shown, doesn't matter. It has to be within that deadline.
Correct.
Okay, good. Well, we have some people asking questions, so this is really helpful. Now, is there anything changed this year about as far as the frame design or what the frame has to be? Is it still the same as last year?
I don't think we changed anything to do with framing. It's still wood or metal in metallic or black or white
Oh,
or wood color. Like,
Wood
you know,
color, yeah.
yeah.
okay.
We did change, last year, we made some changes. As a matter of fact, I was stomping around because our framing, restrictions were people were freaking out about buying frames, myself included. So, we went away from, it can't be a little bit curved, or the sides can't be a different wood color than the front. And we added a colored liner. You can do a 1/4 inch colored liner, either floated on or, behind the top mat. So we have made some adjustments there, but you always have to watch. The other shows that you enter might not take that. So I frame everything to national watercolor standards with a silver frame and white mats and nothing else, because if I want to, I'm going to send it there first because they want fresh work that hasn't been shown anywhere else. So,
This year is, how do we know when we're accepted? Is there a time that the exception accepted, the notice goes
I
out?
don't remember the exact date. I think it's in the first week of July. We're hoping to release the list of who's been accepted.
Okay. But I think it's on, is it on the prospectus? Or
Oh,
the-
yes.
Yeah, I know, I saw the date somewhere on there. So,
it also depends on when the judge comes back with the show. I don't tell people this, but sometimes they come back in a week. But I don't let it out until close to when it's supposed to be that we advertise, because otherwise the following year they expect it in a week. So we don't do that. Plus we have to have time Nancy's going to download all the images, prepare the spreadsheets. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. And all those images that come off Cafe have the artist's last name and a 22-digit code after it. So they all have to be hand renamed with the name and the title. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do before we can really start sending out notifications.
And if you get accepted and you haven't framed your work yet, and you're at the framer and you're thinking about a frame, shoot me an email and I will tell you that's fine, or, oh, I don't think that's going to work. I'm happy to help as much as I can.
so that gold thick ornate frame my grandmother gave me, I can't use.
Nope. Sorry, Ron. Not for this show.
It's really big. It's cute. Now, if I was in the online show and I was accepted, can I enter that now in this show?
Nope. Sorry about that.
All right.
If it's been in any FWS show, it's not eligible for the other FWS show. Now, it could be eligible for our non-juried shows that are open to all members, even our basic members. You could put them in like the volunteer show or like Weathering the Storm we just had. You can put them in those, but you cannot put them in the other juried show.
Okay, good to know. And let me ask you, those of us who've entered a number of shows and we never get accepted, what am I doing wrong? Yeah, I mean, they're great. My friends tell me they're wonderful. Even my kids tell me they're great. Why aren't I getting in the show?
Well, we get upwards of 600 paintings entered, and like this year we only have space to hang 80. So yours may be the 84th in the line, but sometimes that's just how it works. And we could have 3 different judges come in, they'd probably have 3 completely different shows. Not totally, but probably 20% of it would change.
Yeah.
They're all amazed.
Well, the other thing is you have to think about what you paint. Okay, if you're entering a show in Florida, you're going to be heavy portrait, you're going to be heavy bird. These are the people you're competing with. You're going to be heavy palm trees. You're going to be heavy savannahscapes. There's going to be a lot of those. So if you paint birds, you better figure out how to make that bird stand out from all the other bird paintings. It doesn't necessarily have to be the finest rendered, or your composition and your color are what are going to make it stand out from the other paintings. Everybody's going for realistic. Everybody's going for natural. Find a way to make it different than somebody else's.
Good. Just by the way, metal frames, bronze or colored metal frames they're not acceptable?
Yeah, bronze is okay.
Bronze is okay?
Not a big deal, yeah.
Okay. Metal frames are okay then generally?
Just not green or blue or yellow, especially not yellow.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All you're going to see is the frame.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Let's see. I've got a couple more questions here. Oh man, I tell you what, the questions have gone berserk here.
I gotta go.
We may have some stumpers coming up. I like this.
I gotta go.
How much weight did the judges put into the title? Do they see the title of the painting?
They can see the title. I think like most things, it sometimes helps explain something about what the painting is. Some judges may not care.
So some shows don't let the judge see the title. It's not an option.
Yeah.
We have had judges who said they want to see the title. They want to see a clever title. And like Nancy said, the title relates to what the artist was trying to get across in the painting. Do they all read the bios and the dissertations that people put with it? No, they're not gonna. If you're reading 600 artist statement, you're not gonna do it.
No.
They might refer to it, but they're not gonna. But the title is really helpful.
Good. If I'm a beginner, I don't have a website or I don't have all these watercolor paintings done. Is it really worth me doing it? I mean, why would I enter, or should I enter? And is there some reason I should enter when I don't think I have a good chance?
You can't win if you don't play. Pretty simple. Give it a shot.
I mean, we've had plenty of award-winning paintings that were relatively simple, but they just had some quality to them that the judge loved.
First time out. First time out. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, so I guess it's worthwhile at least to try, huh?
Exactly.
Oh, well, we'll all keep trying. My paintings generally are trying, but that's another topic. Why do, this is a question I think a number are asked, why is it seems like the same old ones win all the awards? Same artists win awards every year.
Well, they're really, really good. They're excellent, and the quality is there, and they could be nationally known and internationally known. They're just they have earned their place in the art world.
Yeah,
Yeah, does that make it harder on people who are up and coming? Yes, it does. But we are all about quality and excellence, and that's what we strive for. And we are very happy that those people make us look good.
yeah, okay. Well, sometimes, let's say someone looks in the catalog and they say, all those paintings, I think mine's better.
Okay,
I've said that.
it depends on your what. If there were 6 dog paintings that entered and 2 of them got in and yours didn't, whatever the judge saw in the other 2 dog paintings, you have to ask, that's up to the judge.
I have a question. Why can't I enter a painting that I did in a workshop with under an instructor? I mean, I worked pretty hard on that painting.
Well, we don't want your work to be influenced by someone telling you what to do, even if they didn't paint on your actual paper. They probably walked around and looked over your shoulder and said, "Oh, I think you should do this." So we want the work to be completely original to you. Take what you learn in your workshop. Before you forget, go home and paint something completely by yourself.
The other side of that coin is a lot of the times the workshop instructor hands out the same photograph for everybody to paint. So conceivably, we could be getting 3 or 4 of the same paintings entered.
Good point. Can I take the same subject and redo it again? Like last year I had 3 ladies on a painting. Let's say I want to redo that topic and that reference photo again, but this time I want to do it better. Can I just submit it again?
Well, we want to see some significant change. Something as small as changing a few of the colors of the clothing or doing it a completely different size. We aren't going to have a problem with that. The only time we would have a problem would be if the painting you did last year was too old to enter, and we feel like you're trying to paint the exact same painting again to get past the date requirement. And then we'd have an issue with
I
it.
get it, yeah. Now, just curious, when the judge looks at it on Cafe, do they see the signatures of, especially these people who win every year?
Yeah,
If
they can
they're
see.
signed, yes.
Okay,
If the
they see the
painting-
signatures.
Mhm.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I always take a photograph of my painting before I sign it and a painting of my photograph after I sign it.
No.
So now you can, get it out of there in Photoshop if you want, because a lot of the shows don't want the signature on there at all. So you have to, again, read your prospectus. And if you have 2 good shots of your work, one unsigned and one signed, are ready to go, then you've got, you're ready for any show.
Yeah. Okay, so the judge does see the whole painting. If the signature is on there, they see it. Okay.
Correct.
And that's pretty hard to it looked kind of funny, put a little box there, I suppose, or kind of ruin the painting.
It's like the little black thing in front of your eyes on the porn thing.
Yeah. You got some photos like that?
Oh, no.
No, not yet.
Just checking. Well, these have really been some terrific questions, and the answers have been pretty good too. No, they've been great, and really appreciate your honesty and openness. And what I like most about the way you all approach this is the transparency. It's not nothing's too sacred to ask, and this is the way it's done, and we share it all. If you ever read the syllabus, it's what 48 pages, or I mean, everything is in there. So if you take the time and read the syllabus, would you suggest that maybe we read the syllabus before we enter?
Please read the whole prospectus, the whole thing.
Yeah, the prospectus. I said syllabus, but
2 or 3 times, yes.
2 or 3 times.
Because we do ask you,
Questions, yes.
Yeah.
we ask at checkout if you've read and understand the prospectus, and almost everybody, some people check no. I don't know why. I would check yes, whether or not I read it, but they do. say no, so occasionally. So if anything goes wrong with their entry, either way, it's completely on them.
Okay. Now, Cindy, do you have anything you want to add that you may have thought about and said, oh, one little point I want to make before I forget?
I can't think of anything. I just, I just hope people will come and, watch me just sort of play and experiment with what I'm doing, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, I want everyone to know that this really represents two of the slots in the demos. One's more of a program, the other one's a demonstration. And there's going to be 21 demos all going on 3 at a time. And if you sign up and go to one of these demos, the other 2 will be available for you to view later. We're going to record those, and there's a lot of people last year couldn't see every demo, and we had tons of people come back and they'll look at those videos and watch them over and over again. So that's going to be available for our those who signed up for the convention. If you can't make the convention, you can just order and watch the replays if you want. Maybe some reason you can't make it, but all the demos you can sign up for just the replays. So it's going to be a great event. And what do you think the best part, all 3 of you jump in. What's the best part of our conventions that you like? What's your favorite part?
Cocktail hour before the gala.
Oh, the what's that? Oh, okay. Yeah, the drinking before the gala. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Well, personally, I love the paint around.
Paint arounds? Yes.
I'm in it this year.
What's that?
I'm in the paint around.
Yeah, that's right.
Small brushes and smaller brushes. So this is going to be very interesting.
Okay. Now, will it be beer bottles, wine bottles, or booze bottles?
Probably all of the above.
Okay. We'll be sure to be there.
I'll be by to pick up your empties, Ron.
Most of mine are very colorful. We'll have the replays up they're going to the almost a year. They're available into July of the next year. So you'll have no problem. And the replays from last year, if you did not sign up for them, come August, last year's replays of 2022 will be available to the public. Right now, it's only for those who paid for the convention or paid for the replays. So they'll be made available. And I want to make sure that everyone understands that the convention registration starts
June 1st.
June 1st. I thought you'd all say it together. Way to go.
After tomorrow.
Yeah, June 1st. And make sure you're there. Now, our next demo, artist demo, 3rd Thursday, will be featuring Donna Morrison. If you haven't had a chance to see her demonstrate, I think you should. Make sure you're in the June 3rd Thursday and join us for that demo. And then our next confab, which we're planning on a Sunday this time, because we call them Sunday ConFabs. We have featured, it's going to be kind of fun. And the pairing of this is interesting. First, we have Susan Convery. She's the new treasurer for next year. So it's a double win. You get to see and meet her, the new treasurer, and also you get to see her actually talk to her about what she's going to do in her demo. And Susan Donahoe, she's the leader of the volunteer group. She's organizing all the volunteers. And I know all of you are going to be scrambling all of you on here are going to scramble to be volunteers, but she organized that. But she'll also be talking about volunteers, what's going on. And also she's going to be doing a demo. She's delightful. She's very colorful, to say the least. Just, I call it a hoot to listen and talk to. Does anyone have any closing words that you want to say to make sure everybody knows about?
I just wanted to say that being a volunteer is really fun, and then you get to be in the show later in the year. So do it.
Yeah, I like that.
Your newsletter's coming tomorrow morning. Make sure you read it.
Yeah, and if, by the way, we have people on here who aren't members, what should we tell them?
They need to join.
Okay, thank you.
They can be a basic member. They don't have to live in state. They could be a basic member.
I know, that's right. So join up, join us, be a part of it, and we'll see you at the next confab. But the next thing is June 1st. You're going to go online and register for the convention. And I'm going to be watching the names of those registering. And if they don't match the people on here, I'm going to be irritated. So anyway, you all take care. This was a lot of fun. We finally got
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.